Mayan Lopez is the star, writer, creator of Lopez vs. Lopez. I'm Matt Noble of Gold Derby. Wanted to kick things off by asking you, what is the most sort of important part of this show for you?
But the most important part of this, I think the most important part of this show for me is the essence of family. I think even on and off screen, it really is based on the relationship, loosely based with my dad and I, and it really has brought us closer together, just like our characters. And so I think just the authenticity of this show, it spans into many different aspects, and I think it's just wonderful. And I people love to enjoy it. I love making it.
Yeah, now like, it's based on your relationship with your father and sort of some healing and forgiveness that has to happen there. What is it like sort of processing that on the show? Like, you're telling that story with the person that you've done that with. So what's that like?
It's really, I feel like it's unbridled territory because I've even had people come up to me and other actors be like, I can't believe that you're doing scenes with the person that caused you this pain, but you're playing a version of yourself, but it's not you, but it kind of is. And you're putting it out there for the masses. And I'm like, yeah, no, there's no rule book. There's no like acting class that really teaches you how to do that. I think I've just by doing it for 22 episodes, I had to kind of figure out how to revisit rather than relive that time. And I allow myself, I had to figure out that my character is different than I am, but I think there are times where I really do put myself in there, and we kind of feel the same things, Mayan and I call her Shmayan, I call her sitcom Mayan. So or else I'm just speaking of myself in the third person um all the time. But I think it's very unique, but I think it also really it's helped me and helps me process things, which has helped my character. And I think even just hearing from fans that different experiences, people who have also had hard relationships with a parent, father. My father passed away and I wasn't able to have these conversations, but I feel like I'm having them through you. Like that just makes it all worth it to me, that I'm not only helping my experience but other people's and fans of the show as well.
Mm. So there's times when like you're different to Shemayan, but there's also times like where you have brought yourself to a scene or to a moment. What can you remember a scene where you particularly had to draw on something or bring yourself to?
I think there was one, it was during the quinceañera episode, where I have a moment where I'm in bed, I'm in my big quinceañera dress, I have McDonald's all over it, I'm crying because I'm planning a quinceañera for my dog, but really I'm trying to plan it for myself because my parents got divorced when I was 15 and I wasn't able to have a quinceañera, which is true to me. That was something that was based on my life. My parents got divorced when I was 15, and I really had to grow up, and I kind of lost my childhood. And in that scene where I'm kind of confronting my parents about it, like that was really a moment where I had to let go. And I was like, this is really going to be, you know, me saying these things and really telling my dad and Selena Saleva, who plays Rosie, my mom, and, in a way telling it to both of them. And my dad, and we had a conversation afterwards. And I think watching that scene back, it was really a big moment for me because we were in further into the season, and I kind of found the way to be funny but also have that heart and that seriousness. I feel like that scene in particular, looking at the whole series, I'm like, oh, I figured it out to kind of have that balance. It was quite a way to get there, and that was one that really stuck out to me, that it really was me saying these things.
Yeah, like you're revisiting sort of the problems with the relationship and some of the maybe the grief or trauma that's even caused by relationship breakdowns and family sort of separation. But it's a traditional multicam sitcom.
Yes.
It's not like a super heavy show in a lot of ways. So what role do you think comedy plays in processing fractured relationships
Yeah.
and some of these more heavy things?
I like to always say that, and I learned in studying comedy that comedy is a lot of just tragedy and time, and that enough time has passed that, we can go back and joke about these things. And I think also when handling certain family things, it's more like aspects that we do with the show. It's, laughter is a way of release, and it's a way of, you're laughing at yourself. It's a way of processing what is happening in life. You can laugh through life, you make light of things. I think that's what Lopez versus Lopez, like that's what we do. I like to call it almost like a traumedy. Like we're almost like like there's just we laugh about the everyday aspects of life, and laughter brings people closer together, and I think that's what we do in the show.
Mm. Uh, how has the show brought you and your dad closer together? Because like you started working a relationship before the show started, but how has the show helped with that process? Or you can say it's hindered if you'd like
Mhm.
as well.
No, I think, in the beginning, it happened the show kind of became about in 2020 with, with COVID and the pandemic. The COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. And so I think when we first signed on to do the show, my dad and I didn't really understand because we had a kind of grifted relationship at that point of and even doing the pilot, there's a scene where we kind of go back and forth, and my dad tells me that he's broke and he's been lying to me, and we kind of get into a fight. And when we were even during rehearsals, there was one moment where I did too much and I started crying because it got too personal for me. And my dad and I kind of had to stop. And after that, we kind of, walked on eggshells with a little bit. We kind of retreated in. But as the season progressed, I think we have a good relationship. It's gotten stronger as father and daughter, and I also think as actors, and I think having that respect for one another, working together has translated over into our father-daughter relationship. I think he started to see me as, an adult and not and just like his little girl of like what he remembers me at that time. He's gotten to know me as the person that I am now. And then as we filmed the finale, there's a scene, spoiler if you haven't seen it, we have a intervention for George, and I get to talk to my dad about his drinking, and we all go in a circle, and my dad cries and says how, he finally realizes how family is important to him, and I was really crying there with him, and we were able to be very vulnerable with each other in that moment, and it just to think from the first episode to the last of where we were finally able to get to that place with one another, it's so indicated of what mine and George's arc was, and then what leads to, now as we got renewed to a season 2, there's so much to play with that.
Mm. And like you were sort of saying, like in the pilot, there's a scene where it just got a little bit too real, a bit too intense.
Mhm.
Do you find like when dealing with some of this stuff, like it's easier if you're talking about stuff that you and George have already talked about and processed a bit before the show,
Yes,
rather than like stuff that like I haven't had a chance to say this yet. I'm going to put it in an episode or put
which
it in
is
a
true,
segment.
that has
Yeah,
happened
yeah.
before, like, these conversations where I was like, "Oh, I haven't had this with him, but in a way I'm having it with him, but it's not him, but it's the same person." Like, it's all very meta. But I think we figured it out as a good way of, we were able to have conversations afterwards. There was a Christmas episode. I haven't had Christmas with my parents for 12 years up to that point, and I got jealous of my character for having Christmas with her parents. And it was something that, afterwards we were able to talk about, but I never really told my dad how much it affected me in real life. I just, kind of got used to it. Oh, it's never going to happen. But at the end, I was like, no, this is something that I saw in the scenes. I'm like, they could do that if they put their things aside, and both my parents did, and we had a wonderful Christmas like last year.
Oh, fantastic. That's so
Mhm.
good. You just need to ask for enough takes of that scene
Exactly,
to till
exactly.
they got the hints.
It's like, watch this one. This one's gonna be
Yeah,
a good one. Watch this
yeah.
one.
Like,
It's like,
can we do that one again? Can we do another one of those? Um, what uh, what is you said how like your dad sort of maybe got to know you in a different way through doing this show. What have you learnt from your dad, and what have you gotten to know about him from doing this show?
I just really realized just how much of a real legend and genius he is, and how he really truly is like one of the best people of what he does. Like even he's 60, years old. He hasn't done sitcom in 20 years, and you would never think that he had any time off doing it. It's just ingrained in him and his bones, and just how he's constantly, and I'm getting the more confidence to do the same, of always improvising and adding ad libs and trying this and trying that. And I'm able to come over to him and ask, if a joke doesn't work, like what I could do, and he always has an answer, 5 ideas. Like his mind is always going, and I just watch him work, and I enjoy watching him work. I don't always go to my dressing room afterwards. If there's a good scene that I know in the script, I just kind of watch and observe him. Even rehearsals, we're all laughing. Like even the cast and the crew, like we're all laughing all the time. And it's just a wonderful set and a wonderful environment. And he, really is a big contributing factor to that. As am I, and even as the other wonderful cast members that we have, we've really created a solid family. And he kind of is, our patriarch in that. And he leads us around, and I'm just able to, I look at him in awe, and I'm so grateful to be able to do this with him. I never would have thought in my wildest dreams I'd be able to work with him, and it's something that I'm going to have for my family, and I'm going to be able to share it with my kids. I always joke like maybe I'm going to mess up my kids and we'll do it again in 20 years. I always like joke about that, or 20, 30 years. I'm like, I hope not, but
Yeah.
um it's just time that I never thought would happen, and I'm so glad that it's here and that I'm living in it now.
Mm. Yeah, he did like the George Lopez show is about 20 years ago, I think, like George Lopez. And like you visited the set as as a child. Did you ever, when you were a kid on that set, think, "Ah, that'd be fun one day to be in one of these shows"? I know you did guest star on it a couple of times, but actual
Yeah,
like,
they threw
yeah,
me a bone. They threw me a bone, with like being able to be involved in it. Um, it was just so magical to be able to watch the original cast of George Lopez along with my dad. And it was just really, I got to see television magic, and I realized how magical television is, and how you can go leave work one day, you come back the next morning, and there's a beautiful new set, and it just comes out of nowhere, and it's just, and they do it so quickly, and it's just all the people that you get to work with creatively with the other departments, and it's just wonderful. And to be able to watch the original cast, I learned so much from them, and then to have that full circle moment on the show where they were in the Christmas episode and they made a cameo,
mm,
like that was really emotional for both my dad and I, because it's like that's family. That was our family, and will always be our family. And I remember being a little girl, like, sometimes ruining takes because I used to sit on the camera rig and I would move like an inch, and my dad would be like, Mayan, and now being to be from behind the camera, to be able to be sharing a table and sharing these scenes, it was, now it's the next generation. I can understand that relationship because of how close I am to my co-stars,
yeah,
and how now we're just one big metaverse of what we're
yeah.
creating with all of the wonderful co-stars that we've had and guest stars we've had this season.
Mm. So when you were a kid, it was like, I don't know, sitting on the camera rig or bumping the camera or
Mhm.
whatever. How are you ruining takes today?
My
I'm
really
joking.
take today.
I'm joking.
It's so funny because sometimes I try, like, I was watching when we had the rap party, I was watching the blooper reel. And sometimes I just go and I try to just stay in it as much as I can
Yeah,
instead of just abandoning ship. So I'll just really just be restarting the line over and over. And
yeah.
then they're just,
I love
Maya,
it.
just release. It's okay. We can have, it's digital. It's not film anymore. Like we can do a take. I remember there
Yeah.
was one take in the pilot where I cut my hand on opening like a fake beer bottle, and my hand was bleeding. And I was like, I thought of like my theater training, like, I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio and Django Unchained. Like, I'm just going to keep going with like, and they're like, no, you can cut. It's okay.
Yeah.
And those are the things I've learned now. I'm like, can I do another one? I've always, if I feel like I have another good one in me, or I have another idea, I'm no problem now asking, like, let's do it again.
Yeah. And you were like, I've already cut my
I've
hand.
already
I'm like,
cut,
yeah, already
exactly.
cut.
Yeah, as
Uh, yeah. The is there anything like because obviously when you're a child coming into that world and seeing the magic of television, that's one thing. Is there like what now you are in the writer's room, now you're starring in the show yourself. Is there something you didn't expect from this experience that you could sort of only know from doing it?
I think of just how the behind the scenes, how important collaboration is and how political it can be. I think it's just with the show business, and I think my mom being a executive producer and a producer as well, and so I kind of got to have an idea growing up just listening to phone conversations throughout the years, and hearing the kind of inner workings, but to be able to be doing it now, it's very interesting to, there you're listened to and you can have ideas, and we're having network notes, and it really is a collaboration of so many minds, and sometimes there are too many good ideas and
Mm,
you have to just kind of try to pick the best one, but you all are, you can fight for your idea, but have to pick your battles, and it's a business. It's a business of the relationship, and I think that's what I fell in love with as a kid as well. I enjoyed the business of it. I enjoyed the work as well, in front of and behind the scenes, and I've enjoyed learning and experiencing that part as a producer like I am on the show now, and being able to collaborate on the scripts and, really feel like I'm kind of doing everything, which I am, and I enjoy that so much.
the show, like, in some ways was born through you doing TikToks,
Mhm.
of, like, dancing and talking about stuff with your dad and all that sort of thing, and that's a part of the show is that TikTok thing, but it's also a multicam traditional sitcom. So there's really this big blending of new and old storytelling. How do you think those two things work well together?
We've had instances in the show where we've used TikTok as a good way to add to the story. There's been ones where, I get an ad campaign as my character, and it's all about the followers, and it really, mirrors society of how TikTok is really, I know there's a problem with it now of where it can be banned, but yeah, I see the good parts of it. It allows culture, it allows music, you hear about history, you learn so much from it. It really is a big thing culturally, and I think being able to marry that into what we do with the sitcom, we use it as a tool for our comedy. I had one scene where I used uh TikTok to, talk about my dad, or even in the pilot, my dad uses TikTok as a way to apologize to me and know how important I am to him, and that's his way of publicly displaying his love, and that's a way that we use TikTok as a tool for, the emotional thing of a sitcom, of that us it's like a scene, and that's just how we used to do it, is just through the festival of TikTok.
Mm.
Use
Um,
it to for,
yeah.
we use it to our advantage.
Mm. What is this show trying to say, do you think?
I think Lopez versus Lopez, we really try to show that family, and it's never too late to try to connect with family, and that family and that connection is one of the heartbeat of the show, and maybe the heartbeat of life as well, the people that you surround yourself with, and that is, who your tribe is, and what how you can create that tribe, how you can let people in. And I think it's a show about forgiveness and show about family, and really showing a father-daughter relationship through the lens that it's not always a perfect relationship. Healing isn't linear, but you don't have to be perfect to heal and have healing, and you deserve to have it no matter where you are in your life, and no matter what age you are, you can always grow and have that connection. I hope that's the legacy that, this show leaves behind, and that the viewers will always remember like what they felt and how they connected to it personally.
Mm. I'm meant to be speaking to your dad soon.
Hmm,
I can't remember the exact time right now,
yeah.
but what would be a good question to ask him?
Ooh, what would be a good question to ask Faja? Um, I think, huh. I let's see, because he really is good at giving an answer to anything. Um, I think just how they compare, um, and what he's learned on. I'm curious to see what he's learned on this set compared to the first
Hmm.
show, and how his experiences are, because he was two different people. It's like still the same George and a different George, of like how, it's how it's been for him.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's
Mm.
good. I will ask him that.
Yeah,
Right. Thank you so much for talking with us today. All the best of luck with the Emmy Awards for this year. That'll be really exciting. And also, people watching this interview can go to goldderby.com to cover our awards coverage there. Mine, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
so much, Matt. Thank you so much for having me.